I'd like to call to order the City of Saugatuck City Council meeting for Monday, June 10th. And if you could all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If the clerk could please call the roll.
Anderson. Here. Baldwin.
Here.
Dean.
Here.
Gardner.
Here.
Muncy.
Here.
Stanton.
Here.
White.
Here.
Nibblecorn.
All right, mayor's comments tonight. I do want to be brief because we do have a packed agenda. Per usual, we have a lot going on as usual. But it was a busy weekend in Saugatuck with all of our businesses full, people in town, the various Pride events, the Jump into Summer event at the SCA. Lots of smiles and a lot of people just having a really great time in our town. It was a great time to be a part of Saugatuck. At Red Dock yesterday, it was packed with locals, and that's always really fun to see. I want to acknowledge our treasurer, Peter Stanislawski's letter of resignation as he moves on to take a position with the township. Peter, I know you might be online. I don't think he's here. Oh, there you are, Peter. So, we just want to acknowledge your many, many years of service, and we will miss your sense of humor. We'll miss your institutional knowledge, and we certainly will miss you, Peter. But these are really competitive times when it comes to these types of positions. The city of Douglas is currently without a treasurer as well. But I know Ryan has been working hard on getting temporary help and eventually interviewing candidates for that position. But Peter, thank you so much for your years of service. Before public comment tonight, I want to encourage everyone to take a minute and read our city manager's report. It's only a couple of pages long. Our whole packet is over 100 pages long, but honestly, it's a very thorough report and it has a lot of updates on things that are going on in our community. It also clears up a lot of the misinformation that's being spread out there about a lot of topics. So I know it's just not helpful when people are misinformed when they speak publicly. So our city manager's report is a really great spot to look for a better understanding of where we are on various topics. And then finally, at the end of our agenda tonight, I just want to note there are several openings on our boards, commissions, and committees. We welcome residents to apply and to get involved. So, all right, on to our city manager.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, City Council. Just a couple highlights. First, echoing your comments about Peter. Fortunate to see Peter go, but definitely appreciate his many years of service to the community. I've learned a lot from Peter since I've been with the city and the last few months as the interim manager, especially going through this budgeting process, and really appreciate all of his work. And I appreciate Peter and the township's offer to help make this a smooth transition and still be available to us as we kind of work through next steps. I certainly want to thank our clerk and deputy clerk who have stepped up to kind of help us with some of Peter's treasurer related duties. And then you'll see actually at your next workshop meeting kind of a plan to handle some of the more accounting pieces as well. And then I just want to thank you, Mayor, and all of those that attended the ribbon cutting ceremony for the Village Square Playground. Fantastic turnout. Great to see kids speak. Great to see kids cutting the ribbon. Fantastic turnout. And we've had a lot of happy and smiling faces. In fact, your clerk's daughter here recently tested it out. She was asked to give it a rating, and it was a 10 out of 10. So we got top score there from the kids. So thank you for all of that. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Any agenda changes tonight? Okay. Any guest speakers? Great. Now on to public comment on agenda items only. Anyone in the audience, please come up to the podium. Just give us your name and where you live. No one in the audience tonight. Okay. Anyone online wish to speak on agenda items only? All right. That'll move things along quickly. So we are moving on to the consent agenda. As you see, there's a long list there. And Ryan, if you want to just kind of highlight what we have going on under the consent agenda.
Certainly, Mayor. First item on your consent agenda will be approval of your special meeting minutes from May 22nd, as well as regular meeting minutes of May 29th. There's a item on here to approve of a change to the council rules of procedure to add city clerk as a staff report. This is an item that I recognize that your clerk and deputy clerk are doing a tremendous amount of work, a lot of great work, and thought it was important that they also highlight their work for you, so you know what's going on with their department as well. A few special events to approve, movie in the park, sidewalk sales, and the chili cook-off. Copper Craft Distillery is submitted a social district request to be a part of the social district. There's an Oval Beach Pass request from Hope College for their ongoing Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area Research that they're doing. There's a request for irrevocable, for signage in the right of way for Singapore Room. This would be a revocable license agreement. And then another revocable license agreement for seating in the right of way for Malu.
Right, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to present or to approve the consent agenda as as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, any discussion?
Go ahead.
I'm
please.
sorry, I
Go
just
ahead.
have one item and it's minor, but on the special event for the sidewalk sale, it says city operated sponsored. Is that correct? Or would it be more for profit?
Oh,
I don't know that the city is sponsoring that and operating it.
right,
It's on the first page.
In the
of
past,
it.
it was Sadaba, right?
right.
That,
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
did that for many years.
It's on page
But,
21.
It's taken on by the CVB this year.
Yeah, so
Oh,
it's
okay.
CVB, so I just think it'd be, I don't know if you put for profit or however you want to put it or co-sponsor, but city operated doesn't seem right to me and I don't like that necessarily being
Yeah. point.
on our.
okay.
Okay.
Can
Yeah,
we
no,
correct-
good. Fair notes and
Insurance purposes.
All right, any of that.
Can we correct that as a Convention and Visitors Bureau event?
certainly.
All
Yeah,
right.
and they did select other two for some reason, so maybe they were trying to kind of head down that road and maybe just had had the other one
When
selected.
I just see
so-
city operated, it makes me just a little bit.
Correct, yeah, that is correct. That is a fair clarification. It's not a city operator or,
All
directly
right, do we
sponsored.
need to change the consent agenda or we just, could you correct that or shall we remove that?
I think it's just kind of approval of the event overall. I think, we've noted it today for purposes of our record, and I think that'll be sufficient. so.
Okay, go ahead, Gregory.
Yeah, just a real quick update on, and I remember that we talked about it before, but if you could brief me a little bit more about the research from Holland there, what is it that they're researching?
They're doing some, and I don't know all the technicalities with it, but
Remember, because I know it was a few weeks ago we talked about that.
That's a different one.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit of a different one. So this one is specific to Hope College doing some dual research, and different patterns and things that the dunes do and its impact on the waterways. And I have a couple of their recent research reports. I can.
You're thinking of the weather request, Greg.
No, I was just asking about that in particular. I remember all that. I couldn't remember exactly this one. Like I said, I think we talked about that a couple weeks ago at a workshop.
And
Yeah.
this is a single pass for a professor for.
Correct.
It's a single
for-
pass.
For,
That-
for,
yeah.
for ongoing research.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
She's been conducting this research for many, many years.
I was just curious about what the research exactly was.
I believe she does wetlands and dunes, critical dunes research.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't know all the ins and outs really beyond that. I
Okay.
do have a copy of the research they've done. I'm happy to share that with you if you'd like to kind of take a look and see,
I'd like to see what-
yeah, I can make a note to do that.
And was this something that they did last year or?
They've done it for several years, is my
Okay,
understanding.
all
Yep.
right. I don't remember last. Year. Okay.
Anything else? All right, that's a roll call.
Anderson,
yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right, moving on to our staff reports. City Manager, this is starting on page 48 in your packet.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I highlighted it at the beginning, so unless there's any questions.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions for Ryan? All right, we can move on to the Treasurer's report. Anything to highlight, Peter?
No, that's all.
All right, any questions? Okay, Planning and Zoning.
Nothing in particular, Madam Mayor.
Any questions at this point? Okay, we'll move on to DPW. Hi.
I dared to take a week off last week, and so I see a DPW report didn't get submitted into the packet, so I just thought I'd touch on some of the big picture stuff out there, and I know you've got a loaded agenda, so I'll make it really quick. Village Square Playground, so had a fantastic ribbon cutting ceremony. I want to thank everybody for that and their participation. While we were there, we did notice there were some adventure seeker kids that were doing some pretty awesome moves out there, which reminded us to maybe get a hold of Sinclair Where this week Sinclair is going to be coming down to put, it's kind of like a shroud that goes over the main slide. There were some kids that were climbing on top of it, and this isn't going to prevent that from doing it, but it's kind of a discouragement type of thing. And then also to just do some tweaking to like the perimeter and some other details just to finish it up. But and then DPW, last week, we ripped out some of the busted up concrete along Main Street and got that replaced. We're a little bit at the mercy of our irrigation contractor for both City Hall and for Village Square. They're projecting 2 to 3 weeks out, but I've worked very closely with them on a lot of projects in the past. So I'm hoping maybe I can use like some relational type of, just try to expedite it a little bit based on the working together for so long. I think hopefully they'll be able to do that for us, but that is one of the realities of having the project kind of delayed, is that a lot of these crews already have work going and scheduled. So there's not a whole lot that we can do, but the second they have that in that irrigation replaced and installed, we can get some sod in there, get rid of that orange fencing, and then just basically sit back, let the grass grow, and in the fall we'll replant a tree on the north side of that park. So Oval Beach, really quick, I just want to give a shout out to Noah Aramendi. He's doing a fantastic job out at the Oval Beach right now. I've been in constant contact with him. We've had weekly management meetings. Every single day, my confidence in him is growing exponentially. So I'm very thrilled about the way that things are going. I haven't seen it run this smoothly and consistently in quite some time. So very happy about that. Maple Street, we continue to get complaints about potholes. So Public Works is continuously doing patching, if not every single week. We may have to skip a week here or there just due to other priorities, but we are continuously putting hot patch. I talked to Daniel DeFranco over at the township just to get kind of an update on the roundabout timeframe. We're still over a month out, and so this is just something that we're going to have to contend with to keep the road passable. City Hall landscape, one of your DPW employees, Chad Bauman, he's been working really hard on the Village Square landscaping. So again, we're going to do a lot of the work in-house. We have some renderings that I think everyone's pretty much seen those by now, but we're going to do a lot of the plantings ourselves in-house, and then get irrigation installed and adjusted to all of it. So hopefully that'll be done within, I think in a month, it'll be completely done. And then one more thing, you mentioned, Madam Mayor, about the competitive landscape out there. Public Works, Cody Hardy, our assistant supervisor, submitted his letter of resignation as well. He's been very respectful, very cordial. I really appreciate his candidness throughout the process. He's been upfront and honest the entire time. He's taken another opportunity that's going to take him a bit further than what we can offer with Semco Energy. So I'm really happy for him. And if it doesn't work out for him, he'd be very welcome back. So,
Right.
that's it. Unless there's any
Anybody
questions.
have any questions for Scott? I know, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you for keeping up on Maple. I've noticed the new hot patches with our new equipment. And I know we're keeping up as much as we can. You've got a lot there, but I've noticed you are there weekly because I can see the new patches when they show up. They're a little bit darker than the other ones.
Yeah.
And then also, Cody, I remember his employment, and I think he was a very valuable asset, and was a pleasure to see his dedication to the city and the work that he did here. So he will be missed.
He will. Cody's main strength, really quick, it's worthy of the time, is his dependability. I mean, I can have that guy show up at 3 a.m, 4 a.m, 5 a.m. He doesn't care. I can call him. He'll come in. After our emergencies, there's times where we're coming in at 2, 3 a.m. because a tree fell down. We get a call from Allegan County Dispatch. These are the things that kind of just happen behind the scenes, and no one really, it's one of those things, like a lot of the work that we do, nobody notices if we do it, they notice if we don't do it. And so, that's one of those things. Cody's dependability is unparalleled amongst that crew.
So that was, leads me to a couple of things. One, the trees there was the one large tree that came down. What do we know about that? That happened on your vacation, I think. And then there was another set that must have gone over on, yeah, one was Hoffman and one was Holland Street over the weekend. It looked like there was something on the wires.
Hour they had it removed.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys were right on top of that.
DPW did?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Glad we're on it.
And then the other question, if you don't know anything about it, I'll ask you another time, but the other thing was at one point we were going to have various bids on the landscaping around City Hall. Are we just doing it ourselves?
We did.
Yeah.
That was a pretty pricey number.
Yeah.
Crews are busy. We just felt like we could roll up our sleeves and do the work ourselves. And really, it's kind of nice once in a while when you have some to tap into we have such talent on our public works staff that we spend so much time doing our routine maintenance type of items. It's nice to be able to kind of stiff arm somebody away from the routine stuff so that they can kind of tap into their skill sets a little bit more. And so this is something that we felt we could tackle with City Hall, and we're going for it.
We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks,
All right. Let's see, on to the Sheriff's Department.
They did submit a report, Madam Mayor, that kind of shows the stats for last month on
Yeah, the
calls for
stats were
service. Yep.
interesting, so it was nice to have that. So we appreciate that. Then on to the engineers report.
I think John.
John Moxie online? Okay, all right. So we'll move on to boards, commissions, and committees, the Fire District Administration. Dan?
Well, Madam Mayor, if I could,
Oh,
maybe,
yeah,
just
please.
because it wasn't technically on your agenda, but I did ask her to submit the report in anticipation of you approving her report tonight, but your Madam Clerk has her report in there as well.
Yeah, Jamie, did you want to highlight anything before Dan? Okay, okay. I did see the report and it was great. Thank you so much. All right, Dan, go ahead.
You're always welcome to go before me, Jamie. Just a couple of things from the fire district. As you know, our meetings are out of sync. Fire board meets a week from tonight at 4 o'clock, and then the kind of ad hoc meeting for the budget for all of you and Douglas and the township is at 5 o'clock, but you're welcome to attend both of them. But I would have gotten this to Jamie, except I only got it late this afternoon, the incident reports for updates for May. Probably the most noteworthy tidbit is the sort of expected increase in response times average response times owing to the roundabout construction on Blue Star Highway. That average is 7 minutes and 26 seconds, and that's up just about a minute from the prior average. I've got the specific details. The most challenging based on these numbers for response times for the fire district, given that roundabout construction, are calls east on Old Allegan. So obviously they can't access Old Allegan in the normal way, so you got to literally circle all around. So that times is up fairly dramatically, and that doesn't really concern Saugatuck residents because I didn't much of Saugatuck over there, I don't think. And then separately, some of you may be aware, Saturday morning, there was a fire out on the lakefront, just north of the washout in a rental. There were issues with the response, notably water pressure at the hydrant. The servicing hydrant was way too low, way too low. The chief said it literally wouldn't have been sufficient to a grass fire. And this is a house fire, and the demands for a house fire are significantly higher. As a result, or at least related to that, he's going to be upping his efforts to secure from all of 3 of the jurisdictions the addition of, and this is sort of required by one of the national fire operations, the addition of, there's 4 levels of hydrant water flow. And in an emergency, knowing what level a given fire hydrant will deliver is critical. And so if you have to go through 3 fire hydrants to get to the one that has high pressure, that's a waste of time. So there are fairly cost-effective placards that go around where the hose connects. And this high pressure fire hydrant is the one you want, one they will be looking for. But as I say, there are three more that are lower, but can serve various purposes down to not much. So anyway, that was an issue out there. They ended up using, there's a certain amount of water carried on the fire district's, fire department's equipment, not enough. The Fenville when the call went out for that, automatically 4 mutual assistance calls also went out. So our mutual assistance departments showed up. Fenville's tanker showed up, and that was a key part of it. And then they were able to establish the, I forget what you call it, where they literally build a small pond encased in canvas, dump the water there, go get more water, dump it there, and then they pump from that water station. So no one was injured. Indeterminate cause of the fire, the last thing I read said that the tenants there said the fire started in a room that was not allowed to be accessed by rental tenants. So the owners, whatever was in there, and to this point, they're not exactly sure, A, that hasn't been established for sure that that's true, and B, if it is true, what in that room caused it to go up. But it was an open, by the time they got there were open flames coming out of that building, so. Anyway, I think that covers it. We look forward to seeing all of you a week from tonight, 17th at 5 o'clock. Always fun.
Okay. Any questions for Dan? Go ahead.
Dan, I'm familiar with that fire there on Lake Shore Drive, and had wondered, the response time that you talk about, is that the response time from the call to 911 to you, or is it the call to you from 911?
That's the call from the station to the site, to the incident site.
Okay, from the station to the site. Okay, just curious, because I understand the call with 911, there was some complication where the call was put on hold several times during that call.
We don't run that.
Because
That's a
the
county-
person
that's a county
on,
resource.
excuse me, but the person on that call wasn't really aware of who to call and the protocol to what fire department to call first. They were trying to decide that. I understand there were 2 parts of that call where the caller was put on hold for a long time. So that's why I wondered, did that have any effect on the response time? So the response time is when it comes from, when you get the call from the 911 service.
Right,
correct?
and those times are religiously tracked.
Uh-huh.
They're very carefully
Sure.
tracked. There's no movement in those numbers whatsoever. And I've got in an email the exact time for that particular
yeah,
one. I don't happen to have.
I was just curious.
But as to 911, the next time Dean Kappinger is standing up here at this podium, ask him. Those are his people. 911 is a county resource.
Right.
All we do is answer the
I
phone.
wasn't asking about why that happened. I was asking about what the response time was.
I'm concerned with any impression that somehow we were lax in that regard,
Sure.
which we were not. The district was not.
Sounds like there's some confusion as to what fire department should have responded to that.
And like I said, the
Yeah.
caller was put on hold several times because the 911 operator didn't know who to respond to right away. So,
I should also mention, I forgot to mention, it's too early because we just started June 1st with Life EMS on the transport and ambulance service and what have you. So we don't have numbers on that. I asked the chief specifically, and he said so far there have been no hitches whatsoever. So that's who will respond if you call 911, and if they know to call, which they do, to call Life EMS and dispatch them and dispatch us at the same time.
Mhm.
That's how that works.
Okay.
thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Anyone? And,
Thanks, Dan.
all right. Interurban Board, Gregory.
We've got Becky's first meeting, our new director, and she'll be all by herself, Becky Carton Frandl, our new director. And we're just looking forward to our plans as we expand the building out. We're going to get another bathroom and a little bit more room there. I've talked about it several times, but the grant that we had there. And our next meeting is going to be a week and 1 day from today on the 18th.
All
Our
right.
next,
How was ridership this weekend?
Ridership is up. I mean, it has been up. We're back to almost pre-COVID numbers. We have been all year long. And just a reminder, we're open till 7 p.m. throughout the week and now open late till 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday nights. It's only $1 in our 30 square mile area.
Great.
Yep.
All right. Any questions for Gregory? All right. Cal Lake Sewer and Water Authority, is Barry here? Okay. All right. Did you want to add anything as far as that's concerned? Probably not. Okay, Harbor Authority, Logan.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Zoning Board of Appeals.
They will not have a meeting this month.
Okay, I saw it was canceled. Historic District Commission.
Yeah, good evening. We met last Thursday, pardon me, June 6th. We had a pretty busy agenda. I'll go through the items very quickly. Under new business, the Historic District Commission approved the application of the city to shift the pallet sign by 4.8 feet to the north, as well as installation of traffic and pedestrian signals and construction of a multimodal pathway extension. We also had this is our probably most lengthy discussion of the evening, was regarding 120 Mary, which is the home directly behind the Wickwood. And they had a bunch of proposals about different things they want to do to the house. So there's a really good discussion into the details regarding the standards for the historic district. And we came to a good place, and we actually approved with some changes to the plans that they had proposed. And then here's big news. 215 Butler, which is also known as Phil's, is replacing his front door. So brand new front door going in, and then the little when you walk in the door on the side, there's like this wood structure thing. They're gonna paint that, and they're gonna change that a little bit. So it's good to have Phil here and his contractor. We also approved expand outdoor seating on the sidewalks along Butler and Mason or outside Pumpernickel's, as well as a resolution in support of House Bill 5430 for the expansion of the Michigan State Historic Preservation Tax Credits established under Public Act 343 of 2020. And we rescheduled our July meeting, which was on July 4th, to help me out, Ryan. We went to we're going-
I think the
Yeah.
10th. Let me double
is it
check.
the 10th? I
Yep.
think so.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Russ? All right. Thank you, Russ. We are moving on then to the Planning Commission.
We meet next on the 20th, Thursday, and should have, I think all of the meeting will be focused on short-term rentals. We'll have data in from our planning consultant as we discuss in earnest whether to make a recommendation on caps to city council.
Okay. All right, Holly.
So actually, anybody who is available, encourage you to either Zoom in or join, because I think it will be a pretty meaty discussion. Assuming a recommendation comes to council, that will make us all that much smarter for that meeting.
Okay.
So-
And that is on the 20th.
The 20th, yep, 7.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Holly. Moving on to Parks and Public Works Committee.
We meet on Tuesday, the 25th, 10 a.m.
All right. Tri-Community Non-Motorized Trail.
Councilman Gardner covered the Historic District Commission movement on the pallet sign and the traffic signal. And apart from that, nothing since I briefed you all at our last meeting.
All right. All right. Request for payment. We have none. Approval of accounts payable. Do I have a motion?
Mayor,
Yes.
motion to approve accounts payable in the amount of $191,645.91.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All right. It's a roll call.
Anderson,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right, there are no introduction of ordinances, no unfinished business, which leads us to page 67. This is a public hearing for our budget for the fiscal year 2024, 2025. Ryan?
Right, Madam Mayor, so I think procedurally here, maybe if you want to open the public hearing, I'll provide kind of a brief overview and happy to get into as many details as you'd like. Then we can certainly put it up for public comments and any of your questions, and then close the public hearing, and then we have this as an action item tonight if you're ready. So,
Okay. Should we go for public comment first?
well, if you want to officially open the public hearing.
Okay, I will officially open the public
All right.
hearing for our budget for the fiscal year 2024, 2025, and we have a roll call on that.
No roll call, just your word that you're opening it.
Okay,
And then next will be public comments.
all right.
Yep, I'll provide kind of a brief overview here just to give folks some context. your fiscal year runs from July 1st to the end of June, so kind of a mid-year to mid-year. So for folks that maybe aren't familiar with kind of the governmental way of doing things here. So and the budget process is really a kind of a lengthy process, and it's a culmination of really of a collaborative effort. So it really started back in November into December when there was a community survey put out, kind of asking the community what some of their thoughts and concerns were, and what they thought that you should prioritize in the next fiscal year. And so you took that feedback and you held a strategic planning meeting in December, and then ultimately from that session, staff was given a set of priorities and kind of a ranked order, knowing that we're going to do the best to reach each of those priorities. Which next week I hope to have a work session with you to kind of as Council Member White suggested, kind of have a touch point to kind of let you know where you're at with those priorities so far. But so staff took those priorities. We took a look at our operations, the guiding principles that the previous councils have laid out as far from a policy perspective on what principles the government or the budget should be based around, public feedback, looking at our community needs, essential services that we need to provide, and then of course anticipated revenues, right? Because we know we have a lot of needs and we only have so much money, and so and we presented a budget to you back in April, and we had a budget work session where I went into greater detail related to each kind of portion of the budget, still at a high level, but kind of went into more of the nitty gritty discussions. You have all had opportunities to meet with our treasurer or meet with me if you had any follow-up questions, which ultimately has brought us here. And so just as a reminder, some of those guiding principles for the budget include fiscal responsibility, maintaining, improving public infrastructure and facilities, friendly, honest, and transparent government, position Saugatuck as a recreational and cultural center that attracts visitors, and then the city's employees are its most valued asset. And so I included just a few highlights in my kind of cover letter, and then a few more highlights in my budget presentation, and then obviously the budget itself contains all of the details. But one piece to highlight, you're maintaining a low operating millage rate. In fact, your operational millage rate is capped out, and through heavily rollbacks over time, which this year is no different, that the millage rate continues to kind of actually go down, and your operating millage rate compared to other municipalities in the area is very low. And we showed you that in the presentation that just because the city collects all the taxes doesn't mean we keep all the taxes. In fact, 37 cents, if you have a principal residence exemption, the city actually keeps 37 cents out of each dollar, and the rest of it goes to other taxing jurisdictions like the fire department and the county and the schools. You have very healthy fund balances. So this is kind of your savings or your rainy day fund. So you have a very healthy fund balance in your general fund. You're well above the council set policy of keeping at least $1 million in there for a rainy day or kind of an emergency, basis. So we have dollars available to kind of for the right projects, maybe put those dollars to work if it's your policy direction to do that. In fact, this budget does some of that, and using some of your fund balance as well as anticipated revenues over the next year to really make some strategic investments. So it includes staff wage increases, both cost of living and merit adjustments, as well as adjustments to our pay scales, which the last time that was done was 5 years ago. We're looking at the Blue Star Trail and improvements at Lake and Blue Star and moving that project forward. There's Mount Ball type improvements as it relates to the upper platform and restrooms. There's street resurfacing dollars in your budgets on various streets. And then getting that engineering work going for Maple Street's water main and road replacement. We know that's definitely in need of work. And then the last piece of the budget to highlight is something that you discussed at your workshop is related to a water infrastructure fee, and that we have many millions of dollars in water infrastructure needs, and there's not a dedicated funding source for it at this point in time. And so assuming you go forward with the water infrastructure fee, you'll start collecting revenue for future water-related projects such as lead service line replacements and water main replacements. So that's my very high-level summary, Madam Mayor. Happy to answer any questions as we go throughout the evening here.
All right. Shall we do public comment before council comments? All right. So if anyone in the audience would like to come up and speak on the budget for a fiscal year, you may do so. You can come to the podium, just state your first and last name and where you live. Okay, if anyone online wishes to speak about our budget for this fiscal year, do you see any hands raised? All right. Well, that closes our public comment for this public hearing. Now on to council comments. Does anyone have any questions or discussion?
I really don't like patting on the back too much because I feel like sometimes we do too much of that. But I'll tell you, I'm very impressed with your budget presentation, Ryan, this year. Was very impressed. This was something I hadn't seen even before I was in council when I'd come to budget meetings. So I think that together you and Peter did a wonderful job here. And so I'd like to commend you on that. I had an special smile on my face when I saw the reduced budget of $125,000 in legal fees this year. And I hope our residents see that as well and are happy about that. But you've done a great job. When I look at the general fund appropriation and highlight some of the things that we're spending, not really spending a whole lot to make things a little bit better. But I will agree, we could use a little bit more investment in our staff and everything else here that you provided. So I appreciate everything you've done.
I would like to echo the comments of Councilman Muncy. It's nice to see the legal fees down. I think we did what was necessary to invest in legal services and to litigate where necessary. And I think that's serving us well. And I'm hopeful that we'll see some smooth sailing for a while on that front. And I would like to commend to everyone's attention, slide 85 in the deck. City savings cash reserve total is $5,828,000. 1 million restricted for parks, leaving an unrestricted city savings and cash reserves of $4,715,000. I think we should be very proud of that. And I think that really does show fiscal responsibility on behalf of staff and the city council.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, thank you. I'll echo the comments being made about the presentation of the budget. Two things I would add. One is making sure that everyone understands an appropriation should be viewed as an authorization to spend and not a mandate to spend. So everything that's in the budget itself is an appropriation, and it's incumbent on council then to pass motions to actually spend the money. The reason I mention that is because we have a $200,000 line item for traffic controls at Lake and Blue Star. And I think that's an item that still bears further discussion, not the need for it, but are there other options or solutions available, which may be less expensive? To that point is the budget reserve that we have is very healthy because of past councils in terms of management of that money and stewardship of the financial resources. It's going to get increasingly difficult, as we learned at our last meeting with the water asset management plan, to be able to fund all the projects that the city needs. So it's going to be incumbent on this council and future councils to make sure that that remains money that we can use for those projects without having to burden the taxpayers further. So we're blessed by that. It's good action by previous councils. So I just think it's going to get more difficult going forward as the money becomes more tighter. So.
I agree. I guess a slightly different take to what you just said and agreed with the comments to date. I wish past councils, especially with the water, saving money for that or addressing the need to replace the pipes, because it is a really big bill that I think we're behind. We can't do anything about it. But I do hope that there is a balance between, we obviously need to have funds if we get in a jam or a bad recession, but we also can't keep deferring maintenance and kicking cans down the road because it just costs the city far more than it would have if we had done stuff in a more timely manner. So I do appreciate actually in this budget, it's great. We're getting at some of the big things, especially Mount Baldhead, that would only cost more to replace if we kick that can down the road. So I think you did a really, and Peter too, a nice job of, being responsible with our funds, but also tackling some big issues. So.
Well, I would just have to add to what Council Member Anderson said. If I'm going to pay taxes, I expect to get something in return for my tax dollars. That is clean drinking water. That is clean, fixed sidewalks. That is roads that don't have potholes. if a city I was living in wanted to hold on to my tax dollars for an indefinite amount of time, I'd rather have that money in the market in my own investment account, frankly, if they're not going to spend it and provide me services that year for my tax dollars. So that's the way I look at it. And I think if you would look at any measurement from the MML, we are well beyond what any municipality in the state of Michigan is. In fact, I think we are ranked number one out of all 200 plus municipalities in the state of Michigan for fund balance. And, frankly, I think there's an argument to be made by the taxpayers that, if we're paying you these massive property tax bills, where's the return on our tax dollars? Because we could keep that money invested in our savings, our 401ks, and be making that money ourselves. So I think there's a balancing act here, but I think we're actually extremely balanced on the side where we're holding a lot of taxpayer dollars and not moving quickly enough on some of these infrastructure projects. That's my take on it.
Anyone else? Yeah, I mean, when we just look at the Maple Street alone, it was budgeted. I mean, we're looking at $2.5 million to do Maple Street. It's a lot of money. So when you look at, having money in funds there, these are big projects ahead that we're going to have to tackle. And I'm looking forward to getting them done. So,
If I may, just to be clear, it's not that I didn't have any questions, it's just that it's been out there for 2 months and the manager's done a really good job of addressing my questions and
sure.
feeling really great about our budget. Appreciate it.
Anything else? All right, there's a roll call.
We need a motion.
Oh, do I have a motion to approve the budget for the fiscal year 2024, 2025?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
motion to approve resolution number 240610A, adopt the General Appropriations Act for fiscal year 2024, 2025.
I'll second.
All right.
Anything else?
Anything else? No, roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Baldwin?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Muncy?
Yes.
Stanton?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Then moving on to item 15B. Do I need to have a motion to close it? Okay. All right. All right. We are now closing the public hearing for the budget for the fiscal year. So we are now moving on to item 15B, Resolution 240610, electing to comply with provisions of Public Act 152. Ryan, if you could go over that. This is on page 131.
Certainly, Madam Mayor, and I can turn this over to the city treasurer who submitted this item. It's kind of a annual item to, in the case of the city, we paid for all of their employees' insurance premiums, and essentially would allow us to continue doing that and be in compliance. But
Yeah, so basically, this law has been, PA 152 has been around, I think since 2011, it was adopted, went in effect in 12. There's 3 options. Employees pay 20% of their health insurance, or there's a hard cap based on the state of Michigan's numbers, or the third option, which the city of Saugatuck has done since 2012, is to opt out and agree to pay 100% of the medical insurance for the employees. And this is an annual thing that has to be done every year. Otherwise, they could seize your gas tax money if you don't. You got to comply one way or the other with the law, so.
All right. Do I have a motion? It is on page 132, the sample motion.
Go ahead and make the motion to approve resolution 240610-B, electing to comply with provisions of Public Act 152 of 2011 by exercising the city's right to exempt itself from the requirements of the act for the current year.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right. This is a roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Baldwin?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Gardner?
Yes.
Muncy?
Yes.
Stanton?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. We are on to item 15C. This is the proposal for planning of Maple Street improvements. It's on page 136.
yeah, Madam Mayor, you discussed this at your workshop with the city engineer, and as we've discussed over several meetings, we certainly have water main work to do and a road to replace, and we're on multiple paths to try to obtain funding, or at least help with funding that $2.5 million project that you mentioned. But this work would kind of kick off the planning process.
All right. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion. I'd like to make the motion to approve the Fleiss and Vanderbreek proposal for planning of Maple Street improvements in the amount of $30,000.
Second.
All right, do we have any discussion? All right, Jamie, if you could call the roll?
Anderson,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right, we are on to, if you could flip to page 140 in the packet. Item 15D, this is an agreement to permit temporary access to Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area for weather research activities. Ryan, if you could explain a little bit more about this for those who weren't at our workshop.
Yeah, certainly, Madam Mayor. So the University of Colorado Boulder is looking to partner with, some of our state universities to do some weather-related research as it relates to weather patterns over Lake Michigan and the dunes. And so they've kind of identified our particular area as a good area to do this type of research. These researchers have done this type of research all over the world using this drone-related technology. Brought forth a proposal for them to do this work utilizing drones throughout the month of July, where they would use a portion of the beach in the Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area. So certainly not at Oval Beach itself with how populated that is during the summertime. But they need some area to kind of take off and land their drones a few times throughout the day. So this agreement would essentially kind of, outline the terms of their access and guarantee, they've indicated that there wouldn't be any damage to any vegetation and that sort of thing. So this kind of outlines those pieces as well as kind of protects us from any, liability related concerns. At your workshop meeting, you discussed this quite a bit and had some concerns related to kind of the landing area and whether that would impact folks that were walking along the beach. And so they did provide you with some video footage to kind of show what these aircraft look like and how they kind of land and take off. And then Ice DeBoer is on your call today for any additional questions you might have.
All right, the sample motion is on page 141. Do I have a motion? None at this time?
I hate to do it. Motion to deny the agreement to permit temporary access to Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area for weather research activities.
Is there a second? Okay, any further discussion? Is this something that we would like to see given more time?
Well, Mayor, I raised some concerns at our workshop. Now I'm really confused because as I've gone back and read through the materials, are they asking for just 3 days?
No, they're asking for a
No,
month. It was
Okay,
wrong.
okay,
It's a
it was
typo
wrong in the
error.
workshop and it's wrong in the packet, so it's not for 3 days.
No, it's for a month.
Okay.
Is this something that council would like a little bit more time?
Well, no, if,
Do it at a different time.
if it's for a month, if I may, Mayor.
Yeah.
And this is why I was asking earlier before the start of our meeting. We've got the dredging activity was supposed to start today. And if any of you were here for when the dredging went on in 2019, it involves putting a large pipe all the way from the dredging ship all along that section of the beach. And I'm not even sure if the applicant is aware of this possible disruption of basically their landing field. The Corps of Engineers tentatively is supposed to wrap that up on July 19th, but that's weather dependent. I don't even know if they got to start today because of the weather. So I'm not even sure if the applicant's aware that they might end up in conflict with the Army Corps doing this dredging where they're putting their dredging sand on this stretch of beach. So, once again, there's a lot of pressure on the beach this summer, unfortunately. But, dredging the harbor is an essential maintenance activity that we cannot defer. So once again, as I asked, no disrespect to the applicant, but I asked them if they'd been to our beach during the summer, particularly during that period of time, and they have not. And that's a concern because I think they may not have an idea of how busy our beach can be, particularly if it is indeed, and this is a typo, the entire month of July. So if this does come back, I'm afraid I'm going to remain opposed to it. But it looks like we're not going anywhere anyway, so.
Yeah, and to explain my motion, the same situation. It's just, when you think about a drone, the area that they need it to land on, it's just, people, even if there's not a lot of sunbathers, which there will be in July, there's walking up and down there. And I just wish that we had more information about why all of this has to be conducted at the height of our high season.
Well, I know the reason why they need it at that time is because they're studying thunderstorms. And that's a good month to be studying thunderstorms and weather activity. And that's why they need to do it. I'm not saying that, you know.
It's like it
the
got
beach-
denied at North Shore because like 2 or 3 residents complained, but then we're gonna not have it there because the 2 or 3 residents, but put it out here for our hundreds of thousands of tourists and residents. And I can't get my head around it. And I'm sorry for it. I really
Yeah.
would like to find some way to do it. It just doesn't.
Is there any desire to table this and come back to it? Or do we, I mean, we have a motion, but we do not have a second at this time.
Yeah, I have to agree to a point, though. I don't know if we could make a motion. Maybe we should, but, you know.
I'm happy to
it's just-
rescind my motion if we want to table it.
It's just
Do
the
that.
timing, you know, it's
Yeah.
just the timing. And I heard from someone that they suggested, well, could they use that, the spare parking lot, the overflow? But I'm like, again, the timing, we need that
July.
overflow
Yes.
parking in July. So I don't know if that would be useful either. So I don't know if this would be a good thing.
This is just, again, I'm wondering if there is land, you know, Wiley's got, and I know somebody owns it, but there's a big cleared place on Wiley near the church there, or even the church parking lot would be big enough. And I mean, it's spitting distance almost to the lake. And if they needed to then, you know, go north a little bit, it seems like there ought to be a solution that gets them, because it's important research. I mean, I hope we can find a way to help them
Agreed.
find a way to do the research, but I agree with, you know, council members, you know, Baldwin, Dean, and Muncy, that it's not a good time to do it at our beach.
So should we have a motion to table this?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I rescind my motion to deny and move to table to approve the agreement to permit temporary access to Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area for weather research activities.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Madam Mayor. So a tabling motion essentially requires us to take action in 2 weeks at our next meeting. Right,
Which would be,
right.
I was just thinking we would need a little bit more time and maybe have some
I-
other offerings.
I don't
By
know if
then.
I need any more time. That's how I feel.
Okay.
I don't think I'm gonna feel any different in 2 weeks.
Well, I won't feel different about doing it from Oval Beach. So,
feel
and I
different
guess
either,
we
but maybe
wouldn't
it's
need
more
to
time to
give
talk about
approval
it.
if it was someplace else. So, that's a good point.
It just gives us more time for them to talk about it or to come at us with something else.
But then I suppose, I don't know how we go about this, but based on the conversation we've had, the deliberations we've just had, I mean, I think it makes sense. I think we almost owe the applicant just a vote on a denial then. I mean, if you want, but I don't know how we do that now. We've got a motion to table. Do you want to rescind that? You want to go back to your denial? I think we basically.
There was not a second on the denial, so I was trying to move on to the next idea.
We
So-
ended up deliberating about it anyway, didn't we?
That's
So,
fine.
Yeah.
I would say if you're, I think Robert's rules, like tabling is actually really debatable. So you probably should vote it down if you're gonna not table, and then you can make a motion to deny if that's what you wish to do.
All right. Are we, is,
The motion on the table right now
is to table it?
Nobody seconded the table either, right?
Nobody.
Yeah.
seconded
It
the
was
table.
seconded.
It was
Oh,
seconded by
that's right.
Anderson.
Councilmember Anderson did.
So we can certainly vote on that, or we can rescind it and just do a denial, which is what you
Denial?
did the
Oh,
first time.
All right, here we're back to the square ones.
Sorry to be.
Do we need, do we need a little bit more time to discuss? Go ahead.
For the motion to table to be valid, it has to have specifically in it when it is planned to be action against
It's the
inside,
next-
inside the motion. So like. just
Well, we
it's- it's a-
could vote down the motion to table.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, right.
I'm just listening to the discussion. So if you guys are asking that we're going for a full denial, then we need to rescind that motion.
Or we can vote it down. Do we vote it down or rescind it?
Either one.
Okay,
You have a second. Let's vote on it.
all right. So, so if we're tabling it, then we need to say when the date is when we will bring it back up again?
To pick it back up off the table.
Typically.
Yeah.
Typically, the tables for the next.
So it would just be at the next workshop or the next full meeting, 2 weeks.
Which would be close to the time they would want to start. the
Yeah, it doesn't
project.
make sense, yeah.
Right, we should either withdraw the motion or vote no against tabling it so that then we can have a.
Can I
motion
make
to
the
deny.
motion to withdraw the motion to table the agreement to permit temporary access to Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area for weather research activities.
I believe Helen has to do it
Okay.
because, yeah,
Let's, just.
We were gonna
let's just
vote
go
on
ahead. Okay. Legal
Counsel?
counsel? Where is legal counsel?
Remembers his Robert's rules.
We've had about enough of us at this point.
Yeah. We apologize. Do you need us to vote on it, on tabling it?
Helen can withdraw it. It's her motion.
Okay, so Helen,
Motion
if,
to withdraw, motion to table, to deny the agreement to permit, motion to table to approve.
okay. You rescinded
Motion to
it.
rescind, motion to table the approval of the agreement to permit temporary access to Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area for weather research activities.
I'll second.
and you-
I'm sorry, there's no vote. You can just withdraw your motion if it doesn't have a second.
Okay.
Okay, you would,
And then
withdraw
we
the
can have a new
motion.
motion.
I withdraw the motion to,
all right, so now, would you,
To.
now we're back
What
to
you want.
denying it.
Let me try it. Mayor, I motion to deny the agreement to permit temporary access to Saugatuck Harbor Natural Area for weather research activities.
Okay,
second.
all right.
Yeah.
This is
I
a
think-
roll call vote.
I think just to say, once again, I'm really sorry that we can't help you guys because I know you're online. We would really like to help you, but with the pressure on our beach in July, the fact that we've got the Army Corps of Engineers active there and potentially going well into July doing this work, I just don't think it's a good fit for Saugatuck and our residents and our visitors. And I apologize. I support your research 100%, but it's just not a good fit for us at this time and place.
Yeah. And when I was originally having discussions about this, we talked about doing it at the Saugatuck Dune State Park where it's not as populated. But they said it was just too much of a rough terrain to get all the way out there with all of their equipment. And then when this came this way, now we're looking at a very busy Oval Beach.
Yeah.
So,
I'm all supporting this research as well. I feel the same. And I hate to say no,
Yeah.
but it's just the timing is not right for us right now. Oval Beach is our jewel.
July.
It's why people come here. We want people to enjoy it. We talked about in the workshop about the aftermath. I mean, as much as we can communicate, there's always going to be folks like, why are these things flying around us?
right.
So
Noise and intrusive and it's
Yes,
just.
and hopefully, these folks can reach out to some of the property owners that we know that
Yeah.
live on the lake shore. I'm sure there could be property owners that would be willing to let them use their beach, so.
Okay, Jamie, this is a roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes,
Stanton.
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, thanks, you guys. I'm sorry that was clumsy, but we got to where we needed to be, so I appreciate it. All right, moving on to item 15E, the city manager employment agreement. This is on page 146. And Lizzie is online right now. This is our, I've been working the last several weeks with our employment attorney to come up with a draft agreement offering the city manager position to Ryan Cummins. We had a draft agreement that went out to all of our council members and they had an opportunity to weigh in, suggest any changes, any suggestions, as well as have Ryan weigh in as well on negotiations that he had as far as items that he wanted changed in the contract. Let's see, the motion, or it's on page 146.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
motion to approve the city manager employment agreement as presented, except to strike, including core hours of blank, except when attending to city business off-site on page 1, and commissioned by employee of other material and serious violations of the city's generally applicable personnel policies as amended from time to time on page 5.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right. Any discussion?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, this is awkward. I know that the attorney sent an updated agreement, which presuming is what we're approving this evening. Is that
Yes.
correct?
That's correct.
Which the agreement that's in the package is not the most up-to-date agreement.
That's
considering-
why she struck
Yeah.
the 2 items. Yep.
Thank you. So for me, it's a little awkward. And I brought this up to the attorney and the mayor. There were some things in the agreement that I had some questions about, which wanted to talk with my fellow council members about in a session. The way that this was started was joint negotiation between the attorney, the city manager, the interim city manager, and the mayor did not allow council to prepare a proposal for consideration by the candidate. And there was items in the agreement itself that I had questions around about how we establish certain things. I wanted to talk about that in a session together. That was communicated. So it's awkward for me to even bring up the questions I brought up. And the two things I brought up was, one was the salary, starting salary, which in my mind was never agreed to by the council jointly. Number two was the work from home. It is my opinion that the city manager is a customer service and an employer, and a manager of a team. I do not think that the work from home is appropriate for the city manager position. It should be in the office, except for when attending meetings or other business of the city.
All right, so I just want to correct one thing before we go any further. Lizzie drafted the initial city manager's agreement. She had me look it over and I sent it out to all of you. That was your opportunity to make any changes and discuss how you would like to see any changes as far as
I
what
did.
we came with.
Which I did.
And then it was also sent to Ryan and our consultant, Frank Walsh, where he was able to discuss with you if there was any negotiating aspects of it that you wanted changed. He was able to present those to Lizzie. And then we have this opportunity if we wanted to see any changes made. She compiled a list of, and what was sent out to all of our city council members, a list of everything as far as comments from every single council member, as far as changes to that draft agreement. And then it was eventually, those changes were either adopted or she responded in a way to say why it was written the way it was in that draft contract. So Lizzie, do you want to speak to any of the items that, we've been going back and forth for several weeks now on this draft agreement. So is there anything you'd like to, just explain to the public and to council members?
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and hello to council. I am sorry I'm not there in person with you, but happy to see your faces somewhat on the Zoom screen. Madam Mayor correctly describes the process that we undertook here to solicit feedback and insight as we were trying to draft a document. These are always complicated when we are a public body trying to negotiate. This is not something where we can usually just sit at a table and hammer it out like we might with, I might in the private sector, for instance, when hiring my own team. I did receive feedback from several members of council, but only made those changes where it appeared there was more, there was sufficient amount of feedback along the same lines that warranted follow-up. On the issue of remote work and salary, there were not sufficient commentary to support that making changes to that or that there was an overall consensus to make a change from council. And so for those reasons, I did not make any recommended changes to the agreement. We have built this agreement using the former manager's contract as well as recommended changes from council, being legal counsel, not city council, based on our experience utilizing these in other communities and knowing where those common trip hazards are. I think we have landed on a fair agreement that captures what I understand to be the likely consensus of council. But as Madam Mayor has indicated, today is certainly the day that if there is additional change desired by a sufficient number of members of council, certainly that could be discussed and deliberated here and amendments made to the motion that's on the table if you so wish to do so.
Yeah, and as far as the salary amount, we had a list of the salaries of some of our surrounding city managers. And 115 was on the low end, especially the city of Douglas. The city manager just received a raise for $115,000. So, most of the city managers in the surrounding areas are much higher than that. I did have a couple of council members wanted a lower amount, a couple council members wanted a higher amount. So it fell in the middle. And that's why we landed where we did. So anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, I mean, Mayor, I'm taken by the fact that at today's meeting, we learned that our deputy DPW director has resigned to go to the private sector. This is a very competitive space, and this is a very expensive community to live in or even live near. I understand Councilmember Gardner's comments regarding, the need for our city staff to be present and interacting with the community. Frankly, I would entertain a discussion around salary to make it more possible for the people that serve this community on a day-to-day basis and interact with the taxpayers and the voters here to be closer. And, the best way you do that is you have salary that is commensurate with the environment that people are living in. In a corporate world, a company that is in, say, Zealand is going to pay staff differently than a company in New York City because of the cost of living, the ability to actually show up for the job. So, I think the best way to have staff here and present and motivated is to compensate them well, given the difficulty in living close to this community, given the costs. So I'm comfortable with what Councilmember Baldwin brought forward as a motion.
And if I may, this has just been in conversations, and certainly Ryan can speak for himself, but it's not like the remote work is going to be prolific.
Yeah, to remote work, actually, I think every city staff member who has need from time to time to do work that requires great focus and little interruption, whether it's, Jamie preparing for elections or Ryan if he's working on a complicated, contract or to spend some time away from the office to do that. Again, exercising good judgment. I mean, I think the city manager would want to sign off on it for the rest of staff. And I know we're not here to talk about that, but I think all of us know what it's like to need quiet space to think. So I certainly support allowing the city manager to exercise good judgment to do that. In terms of salary, I think 115,000 is, that would be my floor, not the ceiling. In addition to it being competitive for other jobs, I think Ryan brings great experience to the city in terms of his appointed and elected work for the city of Grand Haven. I believe also appointed positions with the city of Muskegon. He's handled really complicated projects in those roles, whether parking in Grand Haven, environmental remediation there, a very complicated public works project. So he's got great experience that in a city, another tourist community, and same with Muskegon. I think I'm very comfortable with that salary. And in terms of compensation, the one thing that I would like to put back on the table is having a more competitive car allowance. I mean, the 2007 allowance that former city mayor or city manager Harrier had, I'm sure that was good in 2007, but I don't think $250 a month on a car allowance is pretty slim. And so I would recommend that we bump that up to either $4,500 or $5,000.
And the other thing I would add is, we've been blessed with the opportunity to observe Mr. Cummins' work ethic over the past 2 years, which is just another reason why I'm extremely comfortable with the motion as presented by the Mayor Pro Tem.
Does anyone want to amend the motion? What is everyone's consensus about the car allowance? Ryan did bring that up as something he wished to have changed in the contract. Because it was a long time ago that was the allowance. But I was trying to come someplace in the middle. So what is everyone's thoughts on that?
Well, it sounds like our employee is already happy with the contract as it is. So that's kind of where I stand on that. And also, just real quick, I think a city manager, especially for Saugatuck, should try to be in the office as much as he can. And even if he is working on hard place, it is great to have a quiet place to work on important things, especially if you're doing grant writing, really important things. But I think that you can stay here, close the office door. Now, one thing that I love about the city hall, and I've always loved, and I hope that maintains, is that when I walk in the door, or if I pick up the phone. I'm able to get a hold of somebody here and I'm able to reach out to the manager. I know that we have had several past managers in the past where I've always been able to call City Hall back when I was doing events long before I was on city council. And whatever they were working on, they always stopped and were able to, approach and be very personable. That's one of the great things I like about our little town is that we're all very personable people. So I now working from home, I don't know what that, what that constitutes. Does that mean that if he decides I need to work half a week at home, am I working half this week at home or,
Yeah, I think once again, with all due respect, I think it goes to trust and the observations that I believe all of us on the council have had over the past 2 years. This gentleman's work ethic is absolutely stellar in my opinion. I would have no concerns. And frankly, you must be chained to your desk 9 to 5, frankly, is I think an old fashioned and antiquated idea, given what we've been through with COVID. I've been on calls with Ryan when he was on planning with applicants that were sitting in their house weeks, a couple blocks away, well after COVID was gone and we were all vaccinated. But people do work that way now. So people do work differently. Technology has evolved. In my job at the state, I was expected to be in Lansing 5 days a week. That changed with COVID. Now I'm there 20% of the time and I'm still getting the work done, as are my colleagues who are actually more effective because they have the freedom to be out in the field more often and interacting with customers. So once again, I trust his judgment. I'm agnostic on the car piece. But I do think we should really aspire to be compensating our staff more like a Harbor Springs than a Whitehall, frankly. We had a salary analysis from a year ago. And, frankly,
We have a current salary analysis that got sent to everyone.
yes. And once again, I aspire to be more like a Harbor Springs and to have that caliber of staff. Once again, it concerns me that our superintendent just lost a key staff member, his number 2, to the private sector. It's very competitive and once again, I'm comfortable with the motion before us.
All right, anyone else?
Just a comment on to build on what Scott was saying about the remote work. I think we are, we all are looking at our recent past, which is valuable because I think this is a much better contract than we had for our former city manager. But I think we do know Ryan well enough to know that he exercises good judgment. And if city council feels like he is not performing in the way that he needs to fulfill his job, then we talk to Lauren, who has a talk with him. And I think with, I know we're reviewing our HR policies. I have provided fairly extensive, it's extensive, but I provided notes on those to both Lauren and Ryan. So I feel comfortable that we don't need to solve a problem that we had but don't have, because I think we learned that we need to be more on the spot with providing feedback when expectations aren't being met.
Yeah, I just want to really thank Lizzie for all her help on all of this. She knew our needs as far as changing, previous contracts. We had a great deal of input, which I really appreciate from council. And she took, all of that into consideration when she made those adjustments, and then has been great at communicating with everyone as far as any changes and updates, and then, just her legal advice on some of the questions that were asked. So I certainly appreciate everything that Lizzie has done. So, okay.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to make a comment that this is not a judgment against Mr. Cummins at all. I've had an experience over the past 2 years of very hard work from Mr. Cummins in a very difficult position. It's not a judgment against Mr. Cummins particularly. I'd make this request of any manager of the city of Saugatuck, as it's a very public position and it's a very important position for our staff to know that they've got a manager that's here. Notwithstanding that, I work in a position where work from home is an option. And it certainly should be something that should be utilized by staff here at the city of Saugatuck when needed for personal appointments and so forth. But this is about setting an expectation for what I think we should be looking for from a manager. And it's nothing against Mr. Cummins personally. So that's where I was coming from in terms of where I think the expectation should be set is a public position that is here for taxpayers, for employees, to be able to know that that person is going to be here. And to Councilmember Anderson's comment, past experience was not very good in terms of manager being in the office every day. So that's something that I definitely want to make sure that we set expectations that our taxpayers and our employees can expect that from our manager.
Anyone else?
I'll just echo, because you've all heard how I praise Ryan. Love your organizational skills. And you're easy to reach to me, for me. And of course, that budget presentation was awesome. So it's nothing against that, nothing against Ryan. Just looking out for the welfare of our citizens and looking for the overall managerial job. And in my mind, that's the kind of guy who's always ready to stop at his desk, shake hands with anybody that walks in, anytime they knock on his door.
It happens all the time. I'm in his office quite often and people come in every time I'm in a meeting with him and they know him and oftentimes don't even know who I am. So they're like, I know this guy because he's been at my house and we've had many discussions and that's okay. Because he's the one that shows up at people's houses when they have issues and has had, I've had great feedback of people who have come in the office and had an opportunity to talk with him. So,
I
yeah.
do want to be clear. Of course, I think that the city manager belongs in the office more often than not. Absolutely. I just think that the city manager is the CEO and we trust a CEO to set his own hours. And Ryan he's on call 24/7. Anytime I reach him on weekends, nights, holidays, he's available. It's just not a concern of mine. What would concern me more is trying to hem him in on some arbitrary line item that just doesn't suit his work ethic that we already have awareness of after 2 years of him being an employee. I'm not going to hem him in a contract for that.
I mean, both of these things, the job description and the individual are both important. In this case, my vote is heavily swayed by the man, not the job description.
Okay. Anything else?
So I want to revisit the car allowance and sort of see, I know, I'm suspecting Gregory is not for that. To your point though, about, Ryan's saying that he would concede that, especially when you hire people, but with all of our employees, it's a two-way street. If we want an engaged workforce, it really means what we're getting from our employees is going above and beyond and, thinking about the city's problems on weekends and nights. And I think then what the city does is say, hey, we've got you here. We'll cover, if that car allowance is not covering the costs, which this one isn't, we're going to, even if you were willing to concede on that, we're going to do you a solid because we're that kind of employer. And organizations that do that tend to have lower turnover, more engagement and, collegiality, collaboration, not only with their colleagues, but with, other stakeholders. Happy, well-rewarded, challenged employees, that rubs off on the community. And, we're talking about $2,000 or $2,500. I mean, it's just like, I just think you do stuff like that as a showing of good faith that we value our employees, we're going to cover their costs. And sometimes we'll go a little bit for them, even if they were willing to step away from that.
I really appreciate that. I really do. And you're right about that. I mean, I've got a friend whose daughter is making $18 an hour washing dishes, and she's like, I'm keeping this job, right? Because that's good money. So I absolutely get that. But I also understand that, starting him out at the highest amount that we offered, because the job was between 100 and 115, I think that kind of makes up for some of that.
I respectfully disagree.
Logan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just from a process perspective, I'm excited about the results that we're going to see out of this. But as one of my hats that I wear as a council member, is, trying to be a steward of our tax dollars and a steward of our fiscal, responsibilities. This process has been an extremely expensive process for us, start to finish. We are currently effectively paying 2.5 managers right now. We paid, the consultancy fees for the search. Part of that was we aligned with the consultant on a salary range. We agreed to my memory, that was something between, it was 95 to 105, is what I remember.
That changed
That changed.
before it went out. Yep.
We advertised 105 or 100 to
100 to
115.
115.
115.
Yeah, it was what we advertised.
Yeah, because he didn't think the pool, we would get a strong enough pool.
The
Yeah.
other thing that I spoke with the council or our expert with was the idea of remote work. And we specifically talked about how you can't require people to live anywhere. That's not how jobs work, but you can require people to be in the office. And when I spoke with him, he said, yeah, remote work for a city manager would never work. And so it pains me to see us spending money and then not listening to that.
Okay. Yeah,
Doesn't feel good.
I just disagree a little bit just because, Ryan's here till 9, 10 o'clock at night on many of our city council, and I just don't think there should be a core set of hours. I also like the idea of, him having office hours where people can make an appointment, so he can work more, effectively, instead of being interrupted all the time, which is what happens typically. It would be really great to see him have office hours like Tuesday through Thursday, between this time and this time, and where people can actually make an appointment, because he does get interrupted all the time. I know, because I witness it all the time. Not that there's anything wrong with it, it just happens, and it can make it challenging to get really deep into a project sometimes. So that being said, I just think that, having a flexible schedule is just what we're looking at these days. And it's about, being able to retain our good employees.
Yeah.
And working with them.
And for me, again, I suspect we'll be having this conversation again in February. I really think we need to take a hard look at our bench and our staffing. We have a skeleton crew for a staff, frankly. I don't know how you guys do it, Jamie, Scott, Ryan. I don't know how you guys do it. A lot of coffee. Okay. Yeah, dishwashing at $18 an hour. No, you can't do that remote. But I think we need to be more modern. I think we have to sometimes step away from some of these antiquated and old-fashioned ideas based on how the world has changed. I also think we should have a deputy city manager. It served us very well, frankly, over the past few years. And for anybody that wants to compare previous employees, I would just urge everyone to remember that the mayor that did our last employment contract for the manager is no longer sitting on this council. So neither of the two individuals that were heavily involved in that negotiation are currently sitting on the council. So I think we all need to be mindful of that as well. And once again, I'm prepared to vote today on Mayor Pro Dem's motion.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All right. If the clerk could please call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes.
Stanton,
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Congratulations, Ryan.
Congratulations, Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you all, honestly.
Would you like to say anything?
Oh, just huge thank you. Very, very honored. Yeah, it's a little surreal. It's a huge, career milestone for me, but, I visited Saugatuck so many times over the years, and it was such a beautiful place. And I think I wrote about this in my materials, but, it was even to get the initial call from a recruiter saying, hey, there's this planning and zoning spot that you maybe should consider in Saugatuck. I was like, wow, an opportunity in Saugatuck. It's such a fantastic place. And so to be given that opportunity, maybe not from the traditional course of planning and the planning and zoning world, to be given that opportunity, and here, a little less than 2 years after I started here to have this opportunity. I'm extremely grateful. I appreciate the trust and confidence in me. And I really look forward to working with all of you going forward. We have a lot going on. We have just a fantastic team here that I can't do it without. I appreciate all of your comments and support for staff and wanting to support your staff going forward. And that's what I intend to do and really look forward to filling the planning and zoning role and focusing solely on the city manager role and working well together going forward. So thank you.
Ryan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan.
And Lizzie, thank you. Appreciate all your hard work on that contract. Appreciate it. All right, on to public comments on anything you wish to speak about. Anyone in the audience, please just say your name and where you live.
Chris Peterson, 742 Pleasant Street, Saugatuck. Mayor Stanton, council members. First of all, I strongly support an enhanced trail at the airport property and also support it for Saugatuck's track team and others. I do not support a conservation easement without any measurable input from the voters. The township, trail groups running and everybody, the taxpayers, they don't own the land. The city residents of Saugatuck do. I know people were upset about the city manager episode. I can only guess how upset they will be if you take away their authority over 1/2 of the airport property forever. The role of the city council is established by legislation and tradition. One example is public safety. I'm going to touch preserving our public assets and assuring us that you have our best interests at heart. And the first would be to get our opinion on items. This is called due diligence. One way is to do a survey, which you did not do. And the question probably wouldn't result in the answer you want. Would you support giving up your authority of 1/2 of the property of the airport, probably worth $1 million, for $120,000 forever? But you didn't even get an appraisal on the land. Second, you could do a public forum. Can we walk on this area? Can we do a sledding hill? Can we put in restrooms? Why do we need it if it's not developable? And where did the idea even come from? Finally, you have financial responsibility. How much will this cost long-term? Other donations have had to have the money put in there to take care of the upkeep. Signs, parking lot, deck, patrol, lawn and leaf removal, and finally, highest and best. Is this the best we can do for these acres? If we're going to open this up to donations, maybe there's other donors that will give a lot more money and not push for a conservation easement. And finally, transparency. In the newspaper article, Councilmember Baldwin said, no strings attached to accepting this grant. So I don't know if it's a grant or a donor, not sure. But then we heard there's a conservation easement. So show us the contract. Then we heard there is no contract. But the city has already received a check for $150,000. Councilmember Baldwin said, we retain opportunities to do other things with this parcel. Nope, not with a conservation easement. This is misleading. When do these discussions take place? I'm going to talk about bad optics. Slow this down. Why are we in a hurry? You didn't even have complete agreement with your own council. Have the ODC do a public meeting. They are superb. We've had great relationships with them. Better yet, have them do it off the property so they can see how beautiful it is. Thank you.
All right, anyone else in the audience?
Chris?
Hello, I'm Jared Cruz. I own Celador Trades, the new business on 403 Water Street on Main, along with my husband, Aaron Bernardi. And I am here, what's up? I'm here with some fellow Water Street business owners to discuss a sandwich sign, just an umbrella sandwich sign for all the business on Water Street on the corner of Butler and Main. We've only been open for a little over 2 months. The first few weeks, we didn't have a sandwich sign. And we noticed that loop where they get out, they walk down Butler, they come back, they get in their car, they leave. So I made a sandwich sign and I put it there and we noticed, and I mean, a lot more traffic. And I'd say 50% of the people that came in actually mentioned that the reason they came in was because of that sidewalk sign. And now they knew there were more businesses on Water Street. And I just feel like it's important to direct traffic toward these businesses. I've known business owners on Water Street for a few years now, and apparently it's always been an issue. It's been slow on Water Street. And now with the Mermaid gone, I mean, even more so, especially at the corner of Water and Main. We had the sandwich sign out for about a month, and then Ryan ticketed us. We didn't know it was supposed to be there, but he was very cool and let us have it there while you finish construction on the park. And this past week, we've had it down, and we noticed the slow in traffic again. And apologies ahead of time, but this weekend, while it was busy, We put the sandwich sign on the corner for an hour at a time. And as soon as it went up on that corner, we had traffic. And we noticed that they would walk over to Severin's store and then to Ashley's and so on and so forth. And when we took it down, it would die. So I'm here to petition for this sandwich sign, just an umbrella one that we would cover, we would pay for to direct traffic towards our businesses. I know that Ryan sent me the ordinances for the city, and under signs, there is an allowance. I believe it's subsection 15, and there are 4 stipulations involving vehicular traffic, pedestrian traffic, whether or not it fits the town aesthetic, and whether or not it's a hazard in general, and it would not be, in violation of any of those. So I'm not sure why city council couldn't approve it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience?
Sherry Rinaldi of Saugatuck. I was here, as you know, at the workshop. And I hit the budget pretty hard, and I think I hit a nerve. It sounds like an election year. I noticed tonight we're talking about spending more money than we have. That is not good. Let me remind you, I have heard from some council members that you're volunteers. You are not volunteers. You are elected officials and you are public servants, and we are the public. We pay the taxes. We expect you to do your jobs the best you can for the city. And some of the items that you're considering are not in the best interest of this city. Kind of upset. I sit here and watch faces while people are talking. And this is not the first time I've noticed people making faces while one of our residents is talking or one of our council members. It's not acceptable. It's unprofessional, and it won't be tolerated.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience? Anyone else in the audience?
Joe Leonardi, 712 Allegan. I think everybody here knows my ambivalence toward a park, one way or the other, whatever is determined by the public. My concern again, and I voiced this at this last meeting, is not having the public have the opportunity to have input in these situations. I agree with Mrs. Peterson. Having these things ruled on at a meeting that is held midweek during the day isn't really giving people public access. Are you supposed to take a day off of work to comment on this? What if you're a single parent? Are you expected to have daycare? The way this thing is handled, I think, is very unprofessional, and you're not giving the citizenry of this town an opportunity to make intelligent decisions. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience? Go ahead. Just state your name and where you live.
Severin Nowicki. I live in Saugatuck, and I also own the store right next to Jared and Aaron and Ashley. And I'm here to support the idea of Jared's. I had my store for 4 years. This is my 4th year. And I can tell you countless of conversation when I had people coming over and saying, hey, we didn't know you're here. We spent all the money on Butler Street. And I hear that a lot. And I think having a sign where my friend suggested on Butler and Main, and it doesn't have to be specific to any business, doesn't have to have a name of the business, just saying simply more businesses this way will be very beneficial to us because we do struggle with traffic over there. The Mermaid is closed. We have a big park, so we have less businesses there. So I think any help from the city would be great for us. And also, this kind of reminds me of what they did in Douglas with their sign suggesting where the town and the street is. I think that would be maybe not such a big scale like what they did, but something visible, structurally stable, that it's always there during the winter as well. And also with the winter, I've been here 3 years ago addressing the council. Most of you are new, you were not here, but every year we have Christmas lights on the Butler Street. And unfortunately, we don't get the same treatment on the Water Street. I'm not sure why all the money is being pushed, and I believe it's funded by the city. I might be wrong, but I think it is. I'm not sure why the Butler Street gets all the treatment. And I wish there would be more from the city council to treat us as well as the people on Butler Street, because I think we deserve that. We pay the same taxes.
Okay.
So.
All right. Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ashley Skolton. I'm the owner of Murray's Green Apothecary, 347 Water Street. I'm just here as well to support, like what Jared had said, even just like a little bit of something to pull business, like traffic over our way. I feel like I've lived in this area all my life, and it has always been like shop on Butler, you know, you do all the things on Butler. If there could just be any even marketing, something along with the signage, just to kind of support us along the water. As I stated, you know, with Mermaid and Baldy, I feel like them being gone has been huge. That has been, it was helpful a little bit, you know, as they were waiting for tables. And yeah, we're still kind of, you know, waiting kind of to see what that will come of, or what will come of that. But if we could just have some signage, at the very least, I think that would be helpful.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience? All right. Anyone online? With their hand raised? Okay. Then we will move on to council comments. Oh, we do have correspondence. You can see on page 154, there's a number of board, commission, committee vacancies. So again, if you know of anyone that would want to apply for any of those boards, we would love to have any residents be a part of our committees. So on to council comments, Holly?
Yes, a couple things. Thank you, Peter, for your service to the city and best wishes to you at the township. Jamie, I loved your clerk's report. Happy birthday tomorrow to Scott, and congratulations, Ryan. Really looking forward to working with you.
Russ.
Yeah, thank you. And again, thanks to all the commenters this evening, and thanks for people coming up and sharing ideas with us. Ryan, welcome. Glad to get that interim off your city manager. Look forward to working with you. I've really appreciated your responses and proper responses to questions I've had, which sometimes kind of tangle us both up, right? We sometimes like, wait a minute, what exactly is that question? As I said during the interviews, I support you 100%. That support must include a council-led process to ensure that you're appropriately led from a management standpoint. We are the board of directors, the elected council, and it's our job to provide leadership to you and the policies that you need to do your work with the city staff, and that you receive the support that you need to ensure your success. The support includes, but is not limited to, a bi-directional evaluation process, including a 360 feedback review, goal setting with measurable objectives, which I believe is in the agreement as well, and the training and mentoring needed to ensure that you grow into the position. So I think that, in my opinion, the council needs to take a more proactive leadership in helping you do your job. So that's something I look forward to working with you on, along with the rest of the council. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Russ.
All right.
Welcome to Ryan. Thank you for accepting the position. We very much appreciate it. And I never got to publicly thank Logan and Hudsonville for all of their treats that you brought to the, I think you got a little more than you bargained for when the kids were coming at you, but you handled it well.
Reinforcement.
Yeah, I know. And I appreciate that. It made the day that much more festive, and very much appreciate you. Thank you, Logan.
Scott.
Peter, thank you for your service to the city. It's much appreciated. You know, a good portion of the budget we went through today and the success that the city has enjoyed over the years in terms of a healthy, extremely healthy fund balance and continued fiscal responsibility is in no small measure due to you and your oversight of our budget. So thank you, sir. And Ryan, congratulations. I'm very excited for you to be working with the council. And I would remind all of us on the council that, yes, we are a board of directors, but our CEO is Mr. Cummins, and the chairman of our board of directors is Mayor Stanton. And if every one of us, 7 of us, goes into Ryan's office every day with a new priority, we'll get nothing done. So once again, I would urge us all to continue to follow the city strong manager form of governance we have in Saugatuck, and to remember, we are the board of directors, but Mayor Stanton is the chairman of the board, and Ryan is our new CEO. And congratulations, sir.
Thank you, Scott.
Again, Peter, I've so enjoyed working with you over the years, back when I was with the Business Association and doing events in town and all those trees you donated. hoping you'll keep donating trees to us though. Love your relationship with us, love your sense of humor. And I love your fiscal responsibility. You worked with many past council members that helped make this the town that we all wanted to live and be a part of. And I appreciate that. We do have a healthy fund balance and I credit that a lot to you. Cody will be very missed with the DPW. He really was a valuable employee. And just want to note that, and I know I'll see him, but if you'll pass that on, he will be very missed. He really served our community in a fun, great attitude, always one to call, always a great attitude. Never saw him with his face in the mud. He was always a good attitude there. And also congratulations, Ryan, as well. Look forward to working with you. You know that. I also wanted to, we don't always respond, but I know that in the past, back when Sadaba was a working organization and I served on that board, we did do signage back in the day that directed shops down to the old hardware store. And we would have regular signage that directed folks over to Water Street as well. Since Sadaba is kind of like a non-functioning group these days, I wonder if that could be a collaboration with you and the CVB to do some signage, much like they have done for the roads. Like I said in the past, I could probably, if I could get a hold of David Langley, dig up those old signs. But we used to do signage there several years ago. So I wonder if that's something that we could do with the CVB. Other than that, happy Father's Day this Sunday. Don't forget Dad.
All right, Logan.
Every time. Really appreciate the comments from the folks who joined us tonight. It's really important. I learned some things. It's really interesting specifically for the small business owners on Water Street. I like your experiment. I like the, sometimes you got to do some things like that. So we'll have to look at what we can do to support that. It's not uncommon to have wayfinding. I would want to give some respect to the war memorial that is there and make sure that whatever we do is, placed appropriately. But I would really encourage us to make, it's going to be a project because everything involving the government is. But as much as we could, if we could get something looked at there, I think that would be really neat and kind of a win we can all look at. So appreciate that.
All right.
Bringing that forward.
Excellent. At this time, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Adjourned.